I mean, I remember when you first came, Gulwali, because you come from Afghanistan and you were from a Taliban family background. Mm-hmm. When I said this to friends or family and taken aback, quite a few of them, you know, and I had it put to me, well, they're the enemy, aren't they? So you've got the enemy living in your house. I said, Gulwali's not the enemy. There is that side of things as well, you know, and obviously we're in Bolton, which is a very multi-ethnic background and diverse town. However, we live in an area of town which it isn't really, is it?
Yep.
You know, and it's quite seen as a wealthy suburb of our town. And I don't know, have you ever run into any other Afghans in our area?
Certainly not. Not even many Asians or Asian backgrounds or Muslims in this area.
No.
There's all like, you know, mainly white British people lives in this area.
Yeah.
But what really was interesting is that the welcome that I had from your family, I feel comfortable around them and they feel comfortable around me.
Oh,
And
sure.
even though, you know, my background, they mentioned that my family is the Taliban, you trusted me and I trusted you. The whole point was for the first few weeks, I was actually working in a restaurant which I wasn't supposed to. And I didn't told you, I lied to you in the first few weeks,
I
which
know.
you realized.
I
you know?
remember all that, yeah.
And then, but then later on I realized, you know, this is my family. This is the person that I'm going to be living with for the next few years. And I cannot be lying. Whatever I do, I need to be telling the truth. And I told you, look, I need to work. I was working. I need to somehow support my family back home. And
Well, you were
and
on
then,
your own before you came
exactly,
here.
yeah, that's the thing.
wasn't it?
I had to support myself.
Exactly. Because you've been living on your own independently before coming into foster care, again, there was a strangeness there because you were self-sufficient. I'm supposed to teach that and embed that within you, and that was already there. So you'd already left the house a long time ago when you left your mother in Afghanistan. That was the time that you really started to grow up in that self-sufficient way in education that you've needed to do, and all that happened before you arrived.
There's two journeys maybe in my life. One is leaving Afghanistan, traveling through 10 countries and getting to Britain through like Iran, Pakistan, Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria, Italy, France, Germany, Belgium, back to France into the UK, which took me a year. And at the age of 12, that was fascinating itself. But when I got to Sean, I actually realized I had issues around immigration. I had issues around all sorts. But this itself, coming here was another journey. If I have not came to Sean, not have done my GCSEs, General Certificate of Secondary Education, which enabled me to go to college and to do A-levels and to do what I wanted to do, to go and study politics at the university. This was a dream come true. It was not even a dream because when I first came here, I never thought I would manage to get even one GCSE, but we ended up getting 10. And that journey of coming here through different cultures, at different perspectives, with somebody whom I never met before, to live with them, it's completely out of my imagination because being an Afghan, it's very strange. You go and live with someone, and in our words, an infidel, a non-believer.
I mean, that was a real integrationary decision you made in coming here, because from your background, I mean, it is, to say it's strange is an understatement, isn't it? Because it was vastly different. I remember one of the things that really made me realise about your background and culture when you said that you hadn't really heard women talking outside the house, outside, women talking. And you arrived in Britain, and of course, there's women talking everywhere. There's social workers and their managers, and they're all women deciding your future. And it was very strange for you, wasn't it? All of that.
One of the most important things for me was when I told you about anything about Afghanistan, you had an interest. You know, maybe if you didn't have an interest, you still pretend that you had an interest, you know?
Yeah, I really did.
You'd sit down with me, you just like, you know, okay, what happened? In Afghanistan, when I was there, I really liked volleyball. And the guys used to play volleyball, but my family would not allow me, saying, no, that's the job of the bad guys.
Yeah.
You know, you don't do sport. And because I was growing up in an environment where I spent much of my young childhood with my grandparents in mountains, looking after the sheep in animals, and I was really away from sport. And also in school, I think you had a complaint from school. I think that's the only complaint you had from school, from my sport teacher. He was also humorous, saying Gulwali doesn't do any sport. He thought I disliked him. Mr. Jolly, I didn't dislike him. He was such a nice man, but because I hated to change the clothes and go and play sport, because the thing was...
Yeah, I remember that was the thing, wasn't it? I mean, again, that was a cultural thing. You were coming to a place where you were having to strip off and get naked and go into showers, and all. That was a difficult area.
Yeah,
of,
I actually
of
had a
sport
problem with the sport. What happened was everyone was changing. It was quite normal. There's a lot of Asian and Muslim boys as well. But I was like, no, I want to change. I don't want to change in front of these people. I want to change in the room. They did not understand the culture of where I was coming from.
And a lot of that story, which is your journey here, did have an effect on you. And of course, being in war-torn Afghanistan had an effect on you. I remember when you used to talk about gunships, and I wasn't sure what you meant by gunships, but they're helicopters. I came to understand. You don't call them that, they're just gunships. You hear them and everyone runs. And I remember, certainly within the first couple of weeks, the first real nightmare that you had. I mean, you would literally turn your room upside down. While still asleep, I'd find you underneath the bed, shaking and sweating, and you were really, really quite affected, as well as other ways that your body was reacting into some of the things that had happened to you, such as your hands and feet. They used to burn. Do you remember
That's
this?
when you get stressed. Yeah, that's a really important point, because people need to understand. Coming here, yes, you get safety, you get security. Not in all cases. We had issues around immigration, my status, but mainly the things was hunting me back. I had nightmares because of the thing that has happened to me in the past.
I remember the first time was really quite frightening for my wife and I, because you were shouting at the top of your voice in Afghan, and it sounded like there was a few of you in the house. It didn't sound like you were on your own, because it sounded like a real argument and fight was taking place in the room, as though somebody else had come in and it was just you. It was quite frightening for us.
The things that was worrying me and was stressing me out, and the traumas that I had, was mainly because of the time that I spent in Afghanistan, the killing I have seen, the conflict I have seen, but mainly worrying about my mom, my siblings, who is still there and was there. Every time there was bombing in Afghanistan, or there was an attack on civilians, or there was people being killed, got me really upset. And then during the day, because I was really busy doing things, active in school, studies, but at night, when I used to go to sleep, my hands and feet start burning, because the stress and the depression used to take place on me, but also all those things will come back to me at night. It sometimes keeps me awake all night, All this stress, all the depression I had was not only back home, what was happening in Afghanistan, what has happened to my family, and mainly the journey was hunting me back as well. The journey that I had to go through, because before that I didn't really had a time to remember.
Drowned, didn't you? Almost drowned in Greece, and I remember many aspects of your journey and what you told me and what that's like. And when you arrive into the next new country, what are they going to be like with you, and how are they going to be? And tremendously stressful.
Yeah. When I was here, when living with you, Sean, when we heard the story that people have been killed in the Mediterranean Sea, coming from Syria, from Libya, escaping wars, and how Europe was responding, how Britain was responding, it was upsetting me, and also because I felt their pain and why they were doing it, because of the desperation, and how does it impacted me, and how it reminded me of my own story. So, as Sean said, I was in this boat from Turkey to Greece for 49, 50 hours. Overcrowded. Boat was supposed to be for less than 20 people, but there was over 120 people in it, and for days without food and water, and then almost drowned because of the weather, the waves in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. It just stopped working. The boat broke down and water got in. So I saw death with my eyes so many times, and the screams, the prayers, the faith that I had, everything I used. So I try not to think about those memories, but when I do, it comes back to me. So now I'm talking to you. This could have an impact, a negative impact on me when I go to sleep, because it kind of reminds me back. But I think it's important that the story has to be told. Like, there's a lot of economic problems here in the UK, in Europe, and whenever there's crisis, people blame those who are less fortunate, who are here because they came here, they left their families, their countries, their home, but everyone is painted with the same brush. And that is my problem. I think we need to speak up. And I think Afghans or Iraqis or Syrians or all those people who come here to claim asylum, to become refugees, they're doing it because they have no choice. And they come to Britain because we have hope. And I think there needs to be a differentiation between different immigrants and immigration. And I'm glad that I'm able to express my views. And
you did get quite a few negative comments in a lot of the work you've done, haven't you? I hope you kind of let that brush off. I mean,
the issue I have is I don't like criticism, but I appreciate constructive criticism. But look, remember, this was the best day of my life, and Sean was there. Sean was the only person with Auntie Karen, his wife, when I carried the Olympic torch in 2012. And it was in Burnley, so I was there carrying the Olympic torch. I was presumably the first Afghan to carry it. When we got back home from the rally, from the carrying the Olympic torch, which was the best day. And I went on the internet, and there was an article written by BNP and ADLs. Oh, they are the British National Party and the English Defence League. Now I don't know what's happening to them. They're very extreme to the right. They were writing articles on their blog saying, this guy, he traveled through 10 countries to come here, to claim benefits, to do this. Now we are allowing him to carry the Olympic torch. What about the British people? They were saying things which were really upsetting me. And I told Sean, and I kind of went in my room and I cried because I was like, look, I'm not doing anything wrong. The reason I was chosen and selected because of my community work, because of my community involvement, the thing that I was doing for young people, and there was nothing wrong with it. I was contributing to society, but there was people who were demotivating me, discouraging me.
A lot of it is just internet. I mean, very few people actually vocalise and say you're an illegal or whatever. These are comments on the internet, aren't they?
This term I have real issue with. If people call me illegal, that's fine, but this whole debate around immigration in the UK, the immigration policies, this is problematic because when people come to Britain, especially asylum seekers and refugees, I think calling them illegal is immoral, is wrong. It's okay to call people undocumented, it's fine. Someone doesn't have a proper documentation saying, oh, this person is undocumented migrant or undocumented refugee. But calling them illegal, ruin the whole thing, that just kills the whole idea. I mean, like, how could anybody be illegal?
I agree with you, Gulwali.
Now, thankfully, we have refugee status, which means I can stay here and I can travel, I can do a lot of things. But one problem I have, I can do pretty much anything and everything as a normal citizen, but I can't vote. And that just makes me so angry because I've been going out encouraging other people to vote, because what UK or the government or the people needs to realize is that people like me who comes from Afghanistan, from elsewhere to Europe for a better future and for a better life for themselves, they have a potential. There could be people which we can work with in the future. For example, when I go back to Afghanistan, become a leader, become a politician, Britain can work with me better. So if Afghanistan is stable, if there is peace and there is prosperity, people like myself at the age of 12 will not leave, will not have to risk their lives because Afghans have been killed every day, or Syrians have been killed on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea because they're leaving their homes, their families to come and seek a better future. We should give them a second chance. We should accept or respect their aspirations and their hopes because people like me who come here, they will work really hard.
But that said, for someone who made the journey and for someone who knows the pitfalls in it, certainly in crossing the Mediterranean, as you know, what would you say to them people about coming here now?
It's difficult. What I will tell them not to come, but that's the easy answer. But I understand if there's war, there's conflict, there's civil war, there's unrest. People have no choice but to leave. Like, for example, Syria was not leaving before the civil war. Now they're leaving in thousands to come to Europe to seek refuge and seek asylum. I think the world particularly Europe, have a collective responsibility to welcome those people and grant them asylum and grant them refugee status. And hopefully one day they will go back and rebuild their country. They will not stay here forever. Even if they do, this world doesn't belong to only British people. This country doesn't. The people need to think more globally because you were born here, for example, and I was born in Afghanistan. That's just the way it is. And it wasn't my fault and it wasn't your fault. And we should be more caring and sharing and understanding the situation and saying we should help because if the situation is stable in Afghanistan, people will not come and people will try to make life and living with their families. It's understandable we can't have everyone come in, but there needs to be a fair system in place in Europe where there's a fair distribution of refugees to different places. I'm so grateful to Britain for being allowed here, to stay here, to being given all these opportunities. It's great, but because for us this opportunity, like I took every opportunity and I still do. A lot of English young people doesn't take it, British young people, because they take it for granted. It's very normal, but for me it's not normal. So I'm like, if I'm doing anything, I'm giving more than I'm taking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course.